Okay, so big question, what is the prize splitting secret handshake?
Yeah, sure. And there is actually one really easy way, and if you phrase it like this, that is the best way to do it. And what that is,
Imagine this, you're playing in a 32-player single elimination tournament. All you have to do is win 5 rounds of Magic and you will score yourself a card where only 4 of them in the world have ever been printed. The expected value of the card is around $50,000. Second place isn't even an option. Anything less than first scores you about $100 worth of product. Against all odds, you win 3 rounds out of 5 and make it to the top 4. A friend from outside the tournament comes along and asks about buying something called equity of your potential first place prize. A judge happens to overhear this conversation and asks what's going on. You promptly explain the situation, saying that you have no idea what your friend is talking about. The judge then walks away and returns a few minutes later to explain you have now been given a match loss and have been knocked out of the tournament. Well, you don't have to imagine too hard, as this is exactly what happened to Julian Jakobowitz at the GenCon Secret Lair Showdown event. Julian put up a message on Twitter saying, "Just got DQ'd from the Secret Lair Champs event after winning my match and advancing into the top 4. Owned 100% of myself and made no splits with anyone, so I really got maximum punished. Life-changing moment for me, really crushed." The community was very quick to jump and grab their pitchforks and express their outrage, especially towards the judges of the event. However, this is very much a similar situation to those accusing Simon Nielsen of cheating at the Pro Tour. Those outraged seem to have been misled and do not understand the rules that govern this game and the reasons they're put in place. So, let's go over exactly why this outcome has happened, why these rules are in place, as well as working out what can potentially change here. To help me out with this and answer some questions, I have YouTube's favourite Magic judge, Dave Eldon from Judging for the Win. Hi Judge Dave, thank you so much for joining me today. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself for those that don't know, how much experience you have in judging, and have you ever had to deal with any situations like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Dave. I'm from the Judging for the Win YouTube channel, and I've been a Magic judge for a little over a decade now. And I have judged at every level, from a store level all the way up to a Grand Prix level. So the smallest to the largest tournaments that there are in Magic. I've been judging for all of those different types of things, and I definitely have run into situations where players have wanted to organize some kind of a prize split. The place that I see it the most is RCQs. I've judged hundreds of RCQs, and you have like the same sort of dynamic there, where the prize that everybody really cares about is the first prize, where they get the invitation, whereas most of the people don't even really care about like the store credit or the booster packs or whatever else is on the line, especially given that in order to keep the costs down, a lot of stores tend to have like a lower entry fee and a kind of minimal external prize pool, and people are mostly just playing for the top spot, the envelope.
Now, with this recent situation at GenCon, we're hearing the words bribery, wagering, and cheating being thrown around. Are you able to clarify the difference between these infractions?
Yeah, absolutely. So wagering has like basically its normal English word. If you were to put a bet or a wager on any portion of a Magic game, a Magic match, or a Magic tournament, that would be considered an instance of wagering. Bribery has a very similar meaning to its normal English meaning. If you try to offer any sort of reward or incentive to somebody in an attempt to influence their decision to concede, intentionally draw, make any sort of in-game decision, or if they're a tournament official, you can also bribe them and try to change one of their decisions they make in relation to running the tournament. All of those would be an instance of bribery. And cheating is kind of like a catch-all. Cheating is anytime you do something that's against the rules with the knowledge that it's against the rules in the attempt to gain some sort of an advantage for yourself.
One thing I wanted to clarify too, we heard the words match loss and disqualification. And there seems to be some confusion here. Is there a difference between the two, and what are the ramifications?
Right. So disqualification is the strictest penalty that you can get at a Magic event. Basically, if you've ever dropped from a Magic tournament before, a disqualification is like that. You're dropped from the event, you don't get any prizes, and your tournament day is over at the point where you get disqualified. A match loss is just that. If you've ever been at a Magic tournament and lost a match, that is a match loss. The judges can impose a penalty of a match loss against a player, and it will be treated exactly as if that player has lost the next match that they're scheduled to be part of. And so there are a couple of important differences between those, mostly involving, for example, you would still get any prizes that you would be getting if you are assessed a match loss. Sometimes the disqualification is accompanied by additional penalties, such as a ban on playing Magic in future tournaments. A match loss is generally not associated with anything like that. On the other hand, certain tournament structures, especially ones that have a single elimination structure, there is very much similarity between those two, because if you lose a match, then that also ends your day in that tournament.
Okay, so big question, what is the prize splitting secret handshake? What is the best way to prize split without getting a DQ or a match loss?
Yeah, sure. And there is actually one really easy way, and if you phrase it like this, that is the best way to do it. And what that is, Judge, I'm interested in a prize split. Would you help me? And the reason why it's important to get judges involved is that it is legal under some circumstances to arrange for a prize split. And the problem is that there's some nuance and some interpretation involved in whether I want to do a prize split because I'm trying to bribe my opponent and I'm trying to secure a better amount of prizes for myself, or whether I want to do one of the legitimate prize splits that are actually allowed by Magic's tournament documents. And the difference between those two can be kind of fine, and sometimes it's up to the facts that the judge is able to determine and the judge's interpretation of the facts that they're not able to determine. If you get the judge involved right away, you're going to be guaranteeing yourself that you're on the up and up. Now, one other kind of important thing about doing this is that you don't want to talk about what type of prize split that you're trying to arrange until after you're talking to the judge, and the judge will generally want to talk about that away from the table, because if you say something like, "Judge, I'm happy to ask my opponent to scoop to me and give him $50 for it. Is that allowed?" Because if your opponent hears that offer, then it's really difficult for the judge to say that they're not considering that offer when your opponent is making future game decisions, right? And so a lot of the time the judge will require that discussions like this be held away from the table, and only proceed after the judge has said yes or no as far as what it is you could or could not say or offer.
And just so we're crystal clear, what should you do if someone approaches you and asks for a prize split?
Yeah, and so the answer to that question is exactly the same. You want to get a judge involved as soon as possible, because what can happen is if somebody offers you a prize split and the judge thinks that you considered that prize split or accepted that prize split and it was not a legal one for you to do, the penalty for you is going to be the same as as if you had offered that prize split yourself.
So nice and clear, when in doubt, call a judge.
Yeah, we're here to help, and we really do want to help. Judges aren't out to DQ people, and in fact, every Magic tournament I've been to has had some sort of an announcement from the judges once we get towards the big prize round that, hey, don't get yourself in trouble. Be sure you call a judge if you have any questions about this sort of thing. And so at least the events that I'm familiar with, we do try really hard to educate and outreach for players when it comes to situations like this, because we understand it's a high stakes sort of a environment. There's a lot of pressure involved, and we want everything to go smoothly just as much as you do.
Having said all of this, and with everything that has happened, do you think these rules are important to the game, and do they need to be changed or updated?
Yeah, so there's one very important reason why that really sticks out to me for why these are important, which is that in a lot of a lot of jurisdictions, if you have an event that could be considered gambling, minors are probably not allowed to take part in that event, and we definitely have minors who want to take part in Magic the Gathering tournaments, and so this sort of framework keeps everybody safe. And now, with that being the case, I do think that this is one of those areas of policy where I think that the rules are around it are not in the best possible place that they could be, but I think a lot of that is out of necessity, and the fact that the laws around this sort of stuff can vary from location to location. Now, with that being said, I think the biggest thing that Magic and tournament organizers could do that would help this issue is to kind of get rid of this Glengarry, Glen Ross style of Magic tournaments where there's literally tens of thousands of dollars in between first place and second place. I think anytime you have that much incentive for players to try to work something out, you're going to see players attempting to work something out, whether there's a tournament policy somewhere that says you can do it or not.
Excellent information. Any final shout-outs or plugs that you want to give?
No, I mean, if you want to hear about this or any other kind of Magic rules and policy topics in more detail, you can check out my channel. I did a video on this myself where I talked in detail about all the different Magic policies. So if you're interested in a fuller explanation, then I recommend that you would check that out.
Thanks for that, Judge Dave. Be sure to check out his channel and give it a follow. All of his details are linked down below. Okay, so let's recap and go over a few things. First, I think it's really important to reiterate one of the final things that Judge Dave said. MTG judges are not out to get you. Judges want to make sure the game is played correctly and fairly. And I want to stress that last part, as we'll come back to that in a second. Second, even though Julian said they were disqualified, they were not. As Dave mentioned, disqualifications are much more severe. You are removed from the tournament, forfeit all prizes, and it can end up with the DQ'd player receiving a suspension or a ban. While getting a match loss in this case does feel like a DQ, it's really important to differentiate between the two. Both Julian and the judge report both indicate that some discussion of wagering had taken place without discussing it with a judge first. Looking at the infraction procedures guide, a match loss was the appropriate penalty here. To be fair, I think Julian got very lucky here. Julian is a seasoned player having won 2 Eternal Weekend championships. They even mention in their own statement, prior to this event, many people that I knew were swapping equity with one another, meaning that, for example, one player would own 80% of themselves and 20% of another player in the top 32, and vice versa. I had been offered equity swaps by many players, but ultimately decided to not accept any of them because I liked my odds in the field. Which obviously contradicts that he did not understand his friend when they asked about buying some of his future card equity. The important thing to note is that if you knowingly break a rule, that is considered cheating and will end up with a disqualification. Julian and the judge report do both mention that Julian thought he was acting within the rules when discussing this with his friend, so I too would err on the side of caution here. Now this is exactly why this channel exists. There are so many rules in the game, and I aim to cover as many of them as possible to ensure no one gets caught out by anything. So as far as what happens next, I think the main takeaway from this video is that bribery and wagering rules are extremely important to the game. Imagine going to an RCQ and hearing that the person who won the event had their friends concede to them for half or more of the rounds. Meanwhile, you're playing by yourself through every single round. As Jerry Thompson put it, we should be taking a hard stance on collusion and treating it just like cheating. Having said that, just like Judge Dave mentioned, having a near $49,000 prize difference between first and second place doesn't really help things here. So all we can really do here is make our voices heard in the hopes that Wizards change something. And now, at the very least, we know the correct way to split prizes with the current rules in place. What do you think of this whole mess? Do you think these rules need to be changed? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you learned something, be sure to like the video and subscribe, because if you don't, Jerry Thompson and his crew are going to rock up to your next Magic event and Jerry will win the tournament without playing a single game of Magic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.